Hi everybody, this is the A&P Bible and today we are talking about blood and its components. If you've come this far in your syllabus, that means you've hit the dreaded circulatory system. Don't freak out. It's not that the circulatory system is harder than other systems, it's just there's quite a lot of content, but we're easily going to break it down in 3 videos. So I'm going to section it off into blood and its components, then into blood vessels, arteries, veins, capillaries, and then into structure and function of the heart. And then I'm going to do a recap video where we tie it all together. So even though some of the professionals and trainers might go, okay guys, I really need you to pay attention, they're freaking out more than you, and then that's freaking you out. It's not that hard. We're going to break it down. There's just a lot of content, and for a trainer, it's quite overwhelming to cover all the content. And they're just doing the best they can with the time that they have. I've been taught the circulatory system 3 times in my career. When I studied beauty therapy, when I studied body therapy, and when I went back to study personal training. And in my opinion, could have been taught so much better. It's quite a lot of content and we need more visuals. So we need more pictures. We need more ways to remember things and stuff like that. So that's what I'm trying to implement with you guys today instead of you guys trying to just read through your textbook. So let's have a look at our aim for today. So it's to understand and explain the function of blood and its components. So what is blood? What is it made up of? And what's its function? You can also go off and YouTube blood and its components into YouTube, but I'm just going to save you like so much time. Don't do that, because I did some research myself and the only ones that are out there are like, blood is needed in America for 36 trillion transfusions a year. Like, you don't need to know that, okay? So just don't waste your time. You need to know this. So let's get straight into it. So grab your water, keep yourself awake. This is 10 minutes. Watch this 3 times. Done. Take it off. You don't have to watch it 3 times in one go, but do come back to it. So what does blood actually do? So it's floating around the body. We know when we cut ourselves, we bleed, then it stops bleeding. These are all mechanisms of the body and safety and protection. So a couple of pictures here. I think my face is blocking the bottom one, but the bottom one is transport. So transport is transport of gases, nutrients, waste products, around the body. So we're just transporting all those things and hormones as well around the body, because blood moves, doesn't it? And that's why the heart is known as a pump, because it takes the blood, pumps it and pushes it back around the body. Up here, this is a good one. This happens to all of us. A little paper cut or a massive cut or a break where the bone comes through and we start gushing blood because we've hit an artery or vein or whatever. I'm quite a visual learner, so sorry to all the people that are like, ugh. But yeah, so prevents blood loss by clotting. So clotting is another massive function of the blood, okay? These things called platelets come to the area where the clot is and form a little mesh to stop the blood from coming out, because a signal has been sent to the brain to tell the brain that there's a cut and we're leaking out blood somewhere. So that's a massive, massive function of the body. Regulation then of pH and water content of the body is another function. If you're not familiar with the pH scale, if you're looking at this top right hand corner here, 0 is acid, so example will be a lemon. And then 14 is alkaline, example will be a bar soap. And our pH scale as humans sits as about 7.4, which is bang in the middle. When we go on to do the digestive system, it's really interesting. So just kind of keep this in the back of your head, because the way we ingest food and it goes through the body goes through a different array of pHs, but that's for another day. And yeah, and then regulation of pH and water content. Down the bottom here, fights infection. Everybody knows if you get swollen glands, if you start coughing, you start sneezing, if your nose runs, you're thinking, oh, I'm getting sick. Yeah, you might be getting sick, but it's a good thing, okay? Your body is working properly. The signal to the brain is going, we have a virus, we have a bacteria, we don't want it anymore. Let's gush out some white blood cells, which help fight infection around the body. And they're going to help push all of the stuff that we don't want. They're going to do phagocytosis, which is when they grab the little bacteria and engulf it and then break it down so it can't harm us anymore. They're also going to send the excess bacteria or viruses into our lymph nodes to help detoxify that out through the body. That's why we get swollen glands. You'll even feel like your glands under your arms or in your breast tissue might get a little bit swollen, but that's just because the body's trying to detoxify you. So be grateful, okay? I know you don't want to be grateful when you're sipping a Lemsip and feeling kind of shitty, but just be grateful that your body is actually functioning the way that it's meant to. And try and stay off the antibiotics, guys, because they're not good. They suppress the immune system over a period of time. We don't like those. That's for another day. Okay, so what is blood actually made of? So if we went to the doctor and she took a syringe of blood, put it into a test tube, by the end of the appointment, when you're getting up to leave, you'll see that the blood has already separated pretty much. So there's the bottom part is 45% blood cells on the bottom of the test tube, which you can see here. And the top part is 55% plasma. So you probably just presume that the blood comes out in the syringe, puts it into the test tube, and it's 100% blood. It's not. 55% of that is made up of blood and its components, and 45% is made up of blood and its components, and 55 is made up of plasma cells. So what is plasma? To look at, it's like a thick, watery, viscous kind of fluid. It's not clear. It's a little bit kind of strawy coloured. And what is actually contained in it? So blood plasma, 55% of the blood floating around our body is plasma. What does it contain? So mineral salts like sodium, chloride, potassium, etc. Got some nutrients in there. Obviously some waste products that the body's trying to get rid of as well. Hormones, because the transportation of hormones is always through the blood. Enzymes to do different things, which we'll get into a little bit more detail. Gases and antibodies as well, hence to fight infection. So just kind of keep a little eye on these, because sometimes these do come up in multiple choice questions. So plasma proteins then, so within the thick watery coloured fluid, there's 3 particular proteins you really need to know. And when I say you, I really mean beauty and holistics. Personal training, just double check your syllabus, but you can skip on maybe about 40 seconds ahead here, and just be grateful you're not studying beauty, because beauty is way freaking harder than the personal training course. And that's actually fact. But anyways, you can skip ahead, but otherwise let's concentrate on this. So plasma proteins, there's 3 you really need to know, guys, as of now, but please check your syllabus. Albumin is a protein in that watery viscous fluid, and it controls osmotic pressure. We spoke a while ago, a few videos back, about diffusion, which is the transportation of gases through different various walls, permeable walls and stuff. But osmosis is the same. It's the same movement, but of water molecules, okay? So diffusion is always gases and osmosis is always water. But always water. So osmotic pressure is the amount of water through the body going in and out of cells, okay? So albumin controls osmotic pressure. Globulin then is a plasma protein that transports lipids. Lipids are just fats. That's all they are. They're just fats. They're needed all around the body. And globulin pulls them out and pushes them to another area if they're needed more than let's say in the cell of your skin. If they're not needed there anymore, they'll take it out and they'll put it somewhere else. So globulin moves those lipids. Fibrinogen then. Fibrinogen, again, if you're doing beauty, especially if you're doing Sedesco or iTech, you will actually need to break down the process of clotting and figure out exactly how fibrinogen turns into fibrinogen. I'm not going to bore you with that, but how it becomes a mesh in the end to stop blood clotting. So if you are doing beauty or holistics, go back and learn that, because you do need to know that. Otherwise, fibrinogen is just used for blood clotting. So that's a protein that's used for blood clotting. You need to know those proteins and you need to know their functions. So moving on, like, what is in the 45% of blood? Like, what is in there? So we have these 3 cells we really need to know. Once you know these, you are golden. Like, these come up all the time on multiple choice questions. So wide awake now, guys, okay? Wide awake. Let's go. Red blood cells, platelets, white blood cells. There's 3 blood cells that we need to talk about. They're right in front of you. Look at the difference. Red blood cells, they're like little squishy little discs with a little biconcave. That's important. Never heard that before until I studied this. Biconcave means that little dip, okay? Platelets, look how unusual they are. Like, they're just so weirdly shaped, and when we see in a while, they have little legs, and that's so that they can mesh together, because their goal is to clot blood. White blood cells, you're like, what is this big white ball? What's going on here? And all this stuff in here, which like granulocytes, grey granulocytes, which you can go into in more detail, help like engulf that bacteria, which is what I was talking about a while ago. So there's a little bit of bacteria or virus floating around. White blood cell comes and does phagocytosis, totally engulfs it, takes it in, tears it apart, digests it, and then we're not going to get sick from that piece of bacteria or virus. Looking at a blood vessel down here, this is them all going through. Just a blood vessel. So this is visually quite nice to see. So there's some red blood cells, some platelets, some white blood cells. So let's get into them in detail. Red blood cells are also known as erythrocytes. Whatever your course you're doing, guys, you have to know both names for these, okay? So red blood cells, erythrocytes. What is their main function? Their main function is to carry oxygen. They're red because they contain a pigment called hemoglobin, and hemoglobin transports iron around the body. This can sometimes then have to do with, anemia, lack of red blood cells. You can have this thing called sickle cell anemia when the blood cells are a little bit off shape and they find it hard to carry that hemoglobin pigment, which helps carry iron around the body. But the main function of red blood cells is to carry oxygen. So they're produced in the red bone marrow, which we saw when we studied the skeletal system where that happens. They are nucleus-free discs. Remember when I do my eyebrows, it means pay attention. Multiple choice question. Nucleus-free discs. They're broken down in the liver and the spleen. So they're produced in red bone marrow in the bone. They go around, they do their thing in the body, they transport iron and oxygen to where they need to go, and then they are broken down in the liver and the spleen. They only live for about 120 days as well, so it's not long, but it's all we need them for really until we produce more. White blood cells, again visually looks completely different. They protect the body from infection. They're larger in size than erythrocytes and obviously way more regularly shaped than the red blood cells. Their lifespan is days to hours. Their lifespan is days to hours because we don't need them all the time. If you're a healthy, functioning person, there's no point wasting our energy producing white blood cells if we don't need them. But they will fire up if we do have an infection or a virus or something like that. And they do contain a nucleus, okay? So please remember that. So remember, their main function is to protect the body from infection. Red blood cells, which are known as erythrocytes' main function, is to carry oxygen around the body. Another name then for white blood cells is leucocytes. Last cell we have then, platelets, also known as thrombocytes, responsible for blood clotting. And I love looking at these guys because they remind me of like, you could used to buy in like the Euro shop, like little squeegee guys. They kind of remind me of those and then they'd all stick together. But that's kind of what that reminds me of. So there's loads of these floating about and then they all come together and then they start to make this little mesh. And that's what prevents blood clotting. So the function of platelets or thrombocytes is to prevent blood clotting, okay? Which in turn prevents blood loss. They are formed in the red bone marrow also and they do not contain a nucleus and they're only floating about for about 10 days. That's it. Are you like, oh my God, is that it? I feel like we should go again. You don't need to go again. That's what you need to know. Remember, check back with your syllabus. But now I want you to click pause on this. And I want you to take out a pen and paper, just a white A4 sheet with a pen. And I just want you to go nuts on this quiz, okay? So I want you to just list the functions of blood, whatever you remember, even if it's the drawings, if it's the pictures, just write whatever you remember. Then list the components of blood. So components means what is it made up? Is it 45% of something and 55% of something else? Then draw a little line and go through those things. Maybe it's red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and maybe it's plasma proteins and plasma, nutrients, gases, etc. Little hint there, but just draw it in a way that makes sense to you. If it's writing words, that's fine. If it's drawing visual, do that. And then the last thing I want you to do, turn over the page because I want a fresh A4 page, draw 3 blood cells and list 2 POR, which is 2 points of reference. So draw them. Draw the red blood cell with the little biconcave hole, draw the white blood cell with all the dots, draw the platelets with the little arms coming out of it, and then I want you to go through where they're born, where they die, how long they last for in the body, and what their function is. So I know I said 3 there, but try and get 3 points of reference if you can. And that's it, guys. Don't freak out. You have this in a nutshell. So stay tuned because the next video coming up is arteries, veins, and capillaries. We're going to put that all together of how the blood flows through all of those things. There's also some really good videos if you're a bit more visual and you can actually see the red blood cells, white blood cells traveling through the arteries and veins, which I will link below in the arteries and veins one. But otherwise, keep up the good work. Don't stress and don't leave your trainer stress you out either. You totally have this. They're probably just under pressure because it is a big system, but it's easy to cover, guys, if you can sit down and watch me for 10 minutes. And if you know anybody studying the cardiovascular system, just let them know you can watch my video and subscribe and click the bell. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.